Hello and welcome to the interview on France 24. My guest is Tony Elumelu. He's a philanthropist and entrepreneur. Thank you very much for being with us in Davos. Tony Elumelu, you were ranked one of the 100 most influential people in Africa by the New Africa magazine. You're chairman of United Bank for Africa, UBA, and you're also the founder of the Tony Elumelu Foundation. What do you think of Donald Trump? I know you would laugh, but that's a question everybody wants to ask here.
No, for me as an African and as a business person, when I look at an American president, I look at an American president from the point of view of how it will impact Africa. And I think that Donald Trump's administration might not be too bad for Africa.
Not too bad, you think?
Might not be too bad.
Why?
The reason I say this is, I, as a person, as a business person, I've always thought it was time in the world, not with respect to any particular country, for us to also see business people come into politics, into government.
So you like the fact that he's a businessman?
Yeah, I like the fact that he's a business, because as a business person, you know things that affect business. And what is good for business is good for the citizenry. And so if Donald Trump is truly a good business leader, and if he brings that to government, all things being equal, it will be good for business, and what is good for business will translate to the entire society. So my optimism stems from that.
You're optimistic. What do you think about the fact, what he says about protectionism? It's not positive for business, is it?
I think,
or for Africa?
I think today's world has moved, in my viewpoint, beyond that point. And for Africa, our trade relationship with the rest of the world, it's not been very favorable to Africa. And what I say to African leaders and to our business associates is, we need to produce what we consume in Africa. We have been a commodity market economy. We need to begin to transform and convert our commodities to finished produce. If you look at a country like Nigeria, we produce crude oil, but we import a lot of finished petroleum products. That shouldn't happen. So to me, protectionism in the 21st century is not acceptable, is not advisable. But to Africans, we might as well use it as an opportunity to industrialize Africa and trade intra-Africa.
So you actually are a banker. You've become one of the richest men in Lagos, in Nigeria. What's the key of your success?
So I was a banker. I really don't see myself any longer as a banker. I started as a banker, but I diversified long ago into other sectors. Today, I'm the chairman of United Bank for Africa, which operates in 20 African countries, with presence in New York, France, and London. But beyond UBA, we have...
So you're more into politics?
No. We have interest in oil and gas. We have oil assets. We have interest in... we're the biggest thermal power generators in Nigeria. We generate close to 18% of the total power consumed in Nigeria. We're into hospitality and real estate. We're the biggest hotel chain in Nigeria. So we have gone from banking to other sectors. So we are multi-sectoral in our investment.
But you focus on entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So you have actually... you came up with a concept, it's called Africapitalism. What is Africapitalism?
Okay, so two things. First is, from my business experience, growing up in Africa, studying in Africa, working in Africa before becoming an entrepreneur, I've come to realize that no one but us will develop Africa. Others will follow us if they see that we have confidence in Africa. I've also come to realize that in the 21st century, the way we give should change from how it used to be done before. We should give with intent to make people self-reliant, self-independent, and not perpetually dependent on others. So bringing all of this together, the concept of Africapitalism is one that preaches the involvement of the private sector in transforming the African economy. For a long time, we've always called on, say, government has failed. Okay, but we, the private sector, will have a role to also play. So it's about, literally put, is investing, the private sector investment in key sectors of the African economy that will help us transform the African economy and create more economic prosperity and social wealth for people. Talking about social wealth, the Tony Elumelu Foundation, we set it up to help, because we see a lot of unemployed people around us. We see a lot of poverty around us. We see a lot of women who have been excluded from the mainstream activities. And so we just set up the foundation to help the young ones to become economically empowered.
It's a program. What is it, $10,000 for how many entrepreneurs every year that you finance in your program?
It's a $100 million endowment for the foundation to help 10,000 Africans, boys, men and women, in any sector of interest. What's important to us for you to have great ideas. I'll tell you how we choose them. So every year we select 1,000. So it's a 10-year project. This is the third year now. And what we do, we create awareness. People apply. When the applications come in, we're partnering with Accenture. We ask Accenture to help us select based on the criteria the selection board has advised. And so they select and recommend to us, and we select from this. So that's how we've been able to identify the 1,000 per year African men and women that we have tried to empower economically and create.
Why do you think entrepreneurs are key for Africa?
As an entrepreneur, I know how I started, and I know that today my group generates approximately 30,000 jobs across Africa. That is huge. That's significant.
So it's key to create jobs.
So if we have more entrepreneurs like me, with a sense of humility, we'll be able to address the issue of unemployment. Number two is wealth. Poverty eradication comes from economic empowerment, not from giving handouts.
You don't expect anything from governments, for example, from the
do.
Nigerian government?
No, not just Nigerian and African government. You do, and that's one of the things we do. We do advocacy. Nigerian government and other African government, all African government need to...
You don't think they're corrupted governments?
For me, it's not an issue of corruption. I leave corruption for people who can establish that. But what's important to me is that we need to create the right environment for entrepreneurs to succeed. We must realize that if we don't do something about what we call demographic boom, it will become demographic doom for Africa. We must realize that the young ones must be economically empowered. They must have hope. Otherwise, it will become a disaster, and we'll have more extremism. And when we have extremism, it's not going to be safe for anyone.
Do you think entrepreneurs will save Africa?
I have always said that I believe in the power of entrepreneurs to change the world. And by the way, the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, has now recognized the role of private sector in addressing most of the challenges that we have in the world. The private sector cannot be excluded, must be part of the solution, and must begin to embrace success in private sector as success for society. If people do well, and if companies do well, they create jobs for people. So and we need to begin to do this.
Despite the collapse of global commodity prices in Africa, you think that Africa is still a land for opportunities?
Of course. Africa is, the way I see it, the glass is always half full. What you see as economic challenge can actually be, and indeed is, economic opportunity. Because if you look at the challenges and say, how do we take advantage and adjust this, turn things around, that creates opportunities. And so for Africa, I would say it's remains a land of opportunities, but it will elude us if we don't do something about it. There's so much global private capital looking for a destination. They can go to China, they can go to India, they can go to Africa. So we must make Africa habitable and more attractive for this private capital to settle in Africa. Once we do that, create the right investment environment, massive capital will come to Africa, people will take advantage of that, our youth will be employed, there will be prosperity, and we'll be less dependent on commodity prices.
It's the dream that you're describing. It's a bit of a dream.
But we are seeing it gradually come true. People like us were born and bred in Africa, and we've seen the challenges we saw growing up were things we converted to opportunities. but we need to have the right environment to do well, to succeed.
Okay, one question about Boko Haram, because it's still killing in Nigeria. What do you think could be done against terrorism in your country?
Two things I would like to say here. First, I must acknowledge the efforts of Nigerian government. The present government of Muhammad Buhari, you would give it to him. They've done very, very well to a large extent, addressing that. No, beyond fair, beyond above average. However, the ultimate solution is what you and I have been talking about: entrepreneurship, economic empowerment, economic hope. The young Nigerians involved in this, I believe, do so because of lack of hope. But if there's economic hope, if we create opportunities that make these people, talented young Nigerians, to realize their full potential, they won't take to extremism, and they will not be a good candidate for extremism. So it's good we have addressed this, but more importantly, to sustain it and make sure that people don't fall back. To that, we must begin to invest in our people, in our young ones, give them economic hope and opportunities by creating the right environment for them to succeed.
Economic hope. Thank you so much, Tony Elumelu. And thanks to you for watching. Stay with us on France 24.